You are listening to Fika with Vicky on United Public Radio, 107.7 and 105.3 from New Orleans.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fika. And I'm already blooping because I'm thinking about something else. Okay. So I just want to make sure everything is working well for us today. We'll show that. We'll get the comments on. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fika with our guest, Peta-Gaye Nash, and me, your host, Vicky Benison. Peta-Gaye is the author of short adult fiction and children's literature, as well as being a poet. Today, we're focusing on her short story collection, Told Ya Stories. Using as a background her own life experience, being born in Kingston, Jamaica, being of mixed race, and an immigrant to Ontario, Canada. Peta-Gaye then swirls her imagination to create plots and characters in order to find understanding. I believe the term focus book is the perfect description for told you stories. If a focus point is a place at which rays, as of light, heat, or sound, diverge or appear to diverge, then Peta-Gaye's writing is a place where rays of understanding diverge into the world, not shying away from difficult subjects. This work will truly have you crying one minute and marveling at the strength and resilience of humanity the next. You may not always feel comfortable, but that's the point of roller coasters, and it would seem roller coaster books as well. Thanks for this emotional ride to understanding Peta-Gaye, and welcome to Fika.
Thank you so much, Vicky. It is a pleasure to be here.
It is a pleasure to have you, and I apologize for my stumbly beginning. Sometimes too much on the mind leads to falling off the roller coaster, but we're back on now, and everything seems to be fine. Before we get started into the main part of our conversation, I was wondering if you could please just tell the audience what inspired you to write Told You Stories, and a bit about the stories themselves so they can follow along in the conversation.
Sure. So I started writing in my, I would say, early 30s and really came to love short stories. But, it was a difficult journey to really be focused with a family and so on. I think the audience knows what that's like. But I went to Jamaica after moving to Canada one summer. And my father told me this horrendous story. I actually asked about one of his workers. He told me a story that I found so terrifying and horrendous that I thought, I'm going to write that one day. And it started with that one story. And basically, it was about a man who got some unusual symptoms for him. Basically, it was HIV/AIDS. He died without knowing what happened to him, and it was because his wife was cheating. So the wife and the boyfriend were looking after themselves with the medication, and they just left him to die. And I found that story horrifying. And when you find stories that are horrifying, you want to make some meaning out of them. And I think in my own way, I wanted to write about this man, of course, fictionalize it, and just to create some meaning for myself and others. But in the writing of the story, there's no meaning sometimes from things that happen, at least not that we can understand.
No, you can't understand how you could once love somebody and then just leave them without the medication at that point. It's so you just wonder how somebody's mind can work that way. And I was just checking the notes. That was what one was that called?
Told You.
Right, right. That's right. It was told you. The one I always do that. The story the book is named after. Is that why you used that name? Because that was the first story that came to you in the collection?
Well, six of the stories are interrelated, and they all revolve around this guy, this middle class Jamaican man called Matthew. And he's a cynical man, and his way of just saying, told you, is, why that story was named that way. Because basically, I modeled this man a bit off of the personality of my father. And, yeah, so that's why I chose that name. Plus, book titles are always difficult to come up with, and I think we want something unusual, and it's a little different.
You want it to be catchy and pull in their interest, but you don't want it too long. And you don't want to have many other books that have been called that. I mean, this is the first book I've heard of called Told You Stories. So you did good
Thank you.
in finding that name. And also, I think short stories on are becoming more and more popular every day. Like everybody seems to be, and I think that's fantastic because like you said, there isn't always time to write large, but short stories have their own work involved to get all those ideas so tight and concise, and so it has its own talents needed, but also we can as readers take one story a day or whatever and read it and know that we read something, right? It's actually a gift.
I love this genre. And not to say that in the future I won't try a novel, but I love the way short stories sometimes do not have tidy endings, the way that life sometimes do not have tidy endings. So I think that's why I'm so passionate about them. Because so many times, we hear stories about our neighbors or friends or just our own lives, and really there are no tidy endings. So I think that's why.
Yes, no, it's all short stories. It may be a happy ending for now, but it doesn't last forever. Maybe it does in some places, just not my life. Okay.
I don't think anyone's life.
Okay, we'll take one question from Peter. Hello, from Peter. Who is Peter and why isn't he from Brian? I know, Brian. Brian, this is a horrific story for sure. Almost a horror story or perhaps a grim murder mystery. It 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 is.
It is a horror story, and I think that it reflects the lives of so many people. I mean, also, I think writers write about things that are maybe uniquely horrifying to them, and disease is one of those things for me. So you can imagine how I reacted when COVID came about. I was a basket case with cleanliness. So when my dad told me this story, it really it gutted me. It may not necessarily gut someone else the same way, but it gutted me that this man who had dedicated his life to this woman, who had had several children with her, one came out looking very different. It was the boyfriend that gave her this affliction, and it just gutted me that his life ended up like this after so much devotion. So yeah, for me, it was a horror story. Absolutely.
And also a sad horror story because there's that trust issue there that you give your life to a person and they treat it carelessly, right? So that's always a part of it. Now, back to understanding. One of the understandings we have here at Fika with Vicky is that you can't understand a person until you understand their story. That's you need to every story they tell about themselves, everything leads them to greater understanding. So we need to listen. And so when you are looking for understanding, I mean, obviously your empathy for the characters and the circumstances for their behavior is obviously. And your insight into the causes behind that behavior is remarkable. But how do you, like, here's your fear of germs, and, and you find this story so horrific. How do you wear, I'm going to use that word, wear the character, because a writer is wearing the character as they're writing about them. How do you do that? Do you write, as an author, do you use a complete, personality profile or character profile, or do they speak to you as you write?
Okay, so I've taught writing workshops where I recommend a personality profile with age and everything, but to be absolutely honest, I do not start out doing this. It sits in my mind for a lot. The character, the person, sits in my mind for a long time, almost like a flurry of thoughts. What would this character do? What are they like? And I think about them for a very long time before they actually become flesh, as we say. So I don't always think that my way is better. I think I would rather be a more methodical writer, have a character profile, which maybe I'll start doing. But none of these characters were really that way. A lot of them were, compilations of people that I may see on the street, or my father told me about, or my mother told me about. So yes, they have lived with me for a very long time. And there was a long time where these characters lived in my head, and I was fleshing them out. What would they do? What would they say? Which ones drank vodka? Which ones drank rum? These men that I wrote about really became alive for me. But I think for any writer who wants to start out, I think it is better to be methodical. You can train your brain to get things on paper. That's a lot better.
Well, this seemed to have worked.
Oh dear, I think we cut out. Hello? So I was driving around. Vicky, are you there? I can't hear you. Hello? The other way. Let's go back. So right around the Popeyes and the parking lot, my scooter just dies. Hello? Did anyone hear me? Hello?
Okay, I'm back. No idea why the computer just stopped, and look at the hair shows the ransom movie. Um, we're back with Peta, and Peta-Gaye, and I am sorry. We are obviously having a Vicky day. What I'm finding most upsetting is there are more people now than there was when we were talking before viewing. So what's up with that, people? Okay. Um, Peta-Gaye, say hi so I know I can hear you. Okay, and we were getting some echoing from you. Wait, are you now? I can't hear you. Um,
Okay, there we go.
okay, there you
Can you
are.
hear me now?
All right.
Okay.
And I think we were getting some echoing before. So even if it's a little crackly, do you want to try the headphones? Because I'd rather that they could hear
I have
you
them in.
clearly. You've got it in. Okay, we'll
Yes.
see. We'll see if it's echoing again because you have a lot of really great things to say, and I want to make sure
Thank
that they're
thank
heard
you.
when the computer goes off. Okay, so let me see. I know, Robin, that these things happen, but why do they always happen to me? Okay.
Technology is hard sometimes.
Everybody can hear everybody. Everything's fine. Okay. Thank you guys for being out there and letting me know these things so we're not just talking into space. Brian, I will get back to your question in a minute. So, Peta-Gaye, the characters lived in your head. And so, even though you didn't write them down, you were developing them over a long period of time.
Hmm. Definitely, definitely. But I think that when I start writing again,
Mm-hmm.
I will try and be a little bit more methodical because I think that, having things down on paper can be really helpful. I don't know how other writers do it. Yes, I can be a very chaotic person, as you have seen this morning,
Oh,
with
no more.
ideas and things all over the place. So I know I function that way, and it works, and it worked for this book. But I think if I were to try and write a novel, there's a lot more planning involved, and I think it's better to have a system where, you can differentiate your characters, and it would be very different from a short story, I think.
Well, the writers seem to fall into two camps. There are pantsers who are people who just write by the seat of their pants, much as you do. And then there are plotters. And it's whatever works. And I'm sure different projects work in different ways. So keep us updated. Does it help if you have it all written down before?
I'll keep you updated on that. Yes.
What is next? Are you working on a project now?
I am working on something that is very different. I've left it a few years now so that I could focus on Toldia, but I am attempting a sci-fi novel that goes into the
Oh,
future and the past. So we'll see how that goes. It's not something that I'm used to writing. I've been writing short stories for so long. So we'll see. And I do have another children's idea in mind, children's book idea.
and you have 7 of those out. So we're going to look
Yes.
at one particular in just a little bit. We do have some science fiction fans out there, so there'll be something for you to wait for. Okay, deep breath and moving on because this is important stuff. So you wrote to find understanding. And so let's go back to that idea. And as you wrote, did was did you develop a different understanding of justice? Does the class system make a difference? Like, is it any worse to be cruel to someone than to steal their money? And people have to eat, so what do they do? So what did you discover about that?
I think I discovered something that I've always known, but I wanted to portray for other Caribbean people and readers in general. We have these class systems set in place, and even Canada has one. It may
Oh,
not look as obvious, as perhaps the ones in Jamaica or a place like India, but it's certainly there. And I think that my desire was to really show how each of us are so much in our own bubble, and our behaviors, our thoughts, the way we interact with each other, so much is based on this class system. And we believe that we are doing the right thing when we are mired in what we know, but it may not be the right thing for someone else. An example of that is the housekeeper who goes and is working for the richer woman, Miss Dorothy, and she steals from Miss Dorothy. Miss Dorothy is lying there dead in the bed, and she's taking all her stuff, and she's thanking God for
For offing this woman.
fulfilling her wishes of the jewelry and the clothes and whatever it is that she's stealing from the woman. And I think too, that is something that, how to explain it, it's like two countries at war, and
I
both are praying to be the victor. Who is God listening to?
I think that Florence deserved to be the victor, and that was adjusting for unfairness. I found the reasoning humorous, but still there was something to it. When you are having a difficult time putting ends together, and you see someone has 25 watches, or and the other person, I always think in writing that authors want take a person when that person is going to have something difficult happen to them. The author will take them in their behavior to the what I call the point of no return. Okay. They can't be happy. They can't be forgiven. They're going, people, and you're going to be happy about it. So, not to give too much away, but you did a lovely job of that. She wasn't an empathetic person. She didn't show, I think she was a sociopath, really, like with hurting the animals and everything. So, I say, people, you read this book, you read Adjusting for Fairness. See if you don't cheer for Florence too. I may be warped, but I just think, good going, girl.
Thank you. Thank you. I guess the way that I made Miss Dorothy, I guess I was a bit on Florence's side too.
Well, how can you not be when Miss Dorothy was the way you made her?
There are actually people like that who
Yes,
do
unfortunately.
exist. And I know that, especially in a place like Canada where pets are so important, and pets are so important to me too. I'm a cat lover, actually. Um, I actually heard about a woman who did do that. So I
Oh
won't give anything away, but
my
she did
god.
exist. She did exist. And again, that's one of the horrifying things to me. How someone could behave in such, how could a human being, how could any living thing behave in such a cruel way to another living thing?
But I see, how can you speak to people as if they are not as good as you? How can you treat people like they don't deserve to eat? That we make such a event of blaming for the sheer reason that we don't want to feel compassion. No one's asking you to
Mhm,
help anybody, but please don't kick them while they're down. And
mhm,
I
mhm.
believe that she was one of those people. So I'm glad that the story ended. Even if that may make me evil, I don't care. I have my moments. I have my moments.
She was a bit evil. She was evil. Miss Dorothy was evil.
She was. I mean, just the name is evil. But no, there is definitely a class system wherever you go, even at like a large extended family dinner table, right? Somebody's going to be doing
Absolutely.
better than anybody. And if you had just stayed in school and hadn't had that kid or whatever,
I know.
it's all your fault, right? So,
I know. People
um,
judge like that.
yes, and it's life. It's the life that you're given.
Mhm,
I mean,
mhm.
especially in in certain places. Okay.
Absolutely.
So that's just the understanding of justice. I mean, definitely I gave my understanding of justice. And I think you did by writing that story. So that is, and that's the nice thing about a collection of short stories is that we get to feel, like I said, it's a roller coaster of emotions. This book is a roller coaster of emotions. Now,
Thank you, Vicky.
oh, you're welcome. Just stop. So then I talked about resilience, and there are things that people go through. I mean, I think we have to comment that it's not a lot of these stories show a very unpleasantness in being young and female, and what they
Yeah.
have to go through.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
they survive that. And do you think that that was a power that came within them, or do you think that the ones you write about have somebody who's assisting that power that is important for us to contribute to other people's resilience?
Absolutely, we do. We do contribute to other people's resilience. How can we even get through this world without each other? I know that I couldn't. I have so much support around me. I'm so lucky to have a supportive family and friendships and supportive parents and siblings. Thank God. That's how we survive this world. And I think that's true for all of us. And when we don't have anyone, hopefully we can go to some kind of social service that's in place with people who are empathetic and patient and just believe in humanity, because that's how we survive. Some people don't.
Well, no, and this is what we have to look at. We are very lucky with our social benefits, our social help. I mean, people complain, but we are very lucky because places
Mhm.
that don't have that,
Right.
there there is just no. So I'm not saying that things cannot be always better, but there are things that are far worse that people have to live through, and we have to
Yes.
understand that. If we're condemning, like, we all want better for ourselves, we all want better for our families, and we're going to do what we have to do to get that.
Absolutely. But I also believe that the woman that I've written about, um, I take those stories from things I've heard, and we have to live with that pain. Those women have to live with that pain. So, as resilient as we are, yes, it's the people around us who get us through. But some of the things that are done to women, it's the healing is continuous. It's not just you wake up one day and say, "Yes, I'm healed." It's an ongoing process in life where, it could take a while. I mean, it could take a lifetime to be truly healed.
And it's not only the woman that is the healing. I mean, later in another group of stories, we see how the help trickles down multi-generational. Like
Hmm.
because this affects the children. This affects the. Okay, guys, I'm going to say this: the woman is the center of the life, and then to giving out, and to giving birth and all of these things. So especially in a place where things, I don't know, would you say be a little bit more macho oriented, like tough oriented?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So so I think by that her healing would help everything around be healed. Her
Hmm.
parents, their hopes and dreams for her, and yeah, no, you don't get over some stuff. It's like,
No, but I am so happy the story Paradise um, was shared with me by a good friend. She had told me this story in confidence, bits of it, not all of it. And one day, many years ago, I said to her, I want to write that story. Can you sit down with me and go through it again? And she agreed. And she told me later, telling you that story and going through those details, And then after the book came out, and she said reading it was just such a shock. Like, oh, that was something I went through. And she said, a load has been taken off of me now. Something that I've just carried around, that the images would come back to me, or I would think about the unfairness of things and how difficult it was to go through. She said, I offloaded all that to you, and you put it into story form. She says, I'm not carrying it around the same way. So I feel very grateful to that friend. She really showed me what life was like for someone working, a young, beautiful, attractive woman working in the hotel industry in Jamaica.
Well,
Yeah.
and that is such a powerful thing to learn about that story, because in the story, I feel like, she never really was listened to, like, what she felt was not, it was about moving on. It was about, and yes, I think we have to mention that there is, sexual harassment, right down to sexual attacks within this book, because this will all be people dealing with. But that is so powerful that once her story was heard, really heard, she could let it go. Listen to
Yes,
people's stories. You can change their lives just by listening.
absolutely.
Peta has shown this
Absolutely.
to us. Okay, I'm going to see if Brian has. Oh, wait. Oh, well, that's nice, Brian. Brian's not always nice. He said things happen to you, Vicky, because you're the one who tries new things. Okay, I do try new things, but then I wouldn't get to meet people like Peta or you. And he also says, Peta, no matter what system you use, the characters in the novel take over and begin informing you of what needs doing for them. So, you know what?
That's
You can
so
plan
true,
them out.
Brian. So true.
And
Yeah. They do change direction, so you are absolutely right with that. They behave in unexpected ways sometimes, and I found that out in writing this book as well. Yeah. Thank you.
And yeah, no, they're there. There's no accounting for them. And also, Brian is making his usual. Kobo is Canadian. So no, Brian, it's on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. But if you ever have a minute and want to put it on Kobo, it would make our friend Brian happy.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. I'll work towards that.
It's always best to keep our friend Brian happy. Also, he's a science fiction fan, so that may be important in the future for you. Okay, and finally, with Told You Stories, not that there's any final, I love the section with the gang of guys. Matthew, Danny, like all of them, and the way they play off each other after years of friendship. And so one of the things I noticed is that Danny may have been judged for this is my interpretation. I always have one. May have been judged for not contributing to a legacy, contributing to a business, contributing to a building. And yet, by doing nothing but giving to some girls, he had the greatest legacy of all. And that began to
I did not even see it that way. You see how it's amazing when somebody else reads your story and comes up with a very perceptive, I don't know, insight? Oh my gosh, you are so right. Danny had a legacy.
he had the greatest legacy.
He did.
And then, these are just like some old bachelors and that, but then that contributed to Matthew going out of his comfort zone. And so maybe going out of doing something new, Brian. Going off air gave me redemption. I don't know. But by going out of our comfort zone because of the class system, because you don't talk to those kind of people, or what will people say if you spend time with that girl, or whatever, can lead to changing a couple generations at least.
Absolutely. I love the character Danny because he did not care what people thought. he was a heavy drinker. He didn't want to go to work. And I love the way that people would ask him questions, but he wouldn't even, he didn't feel the need to answer them and tell him why he did anything. He just privately went ahead and helped these girls for no other reason except that he wanted to. So I love that, because there are people like that. Not everybody is going to say, oh, I did this, I did that. But you're right. He did leave a greater legacy, and I did not even think of that. Thank you, Vicky.
Oh, you're welcome. I was just, and honestly, I gave you far more credit than you deserve.
Well, and what I also love is that all these guys are thinking that he must have done this out of some perversion, or
well, no,
that
he was a dad, and in a way, in a lesser way, maybe a more grumpy way, Matthew was a dad too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like they were still playing like with his workers and with and so they still gave to society and left their mark. When others might have thought,
criticize them, and the stereotype of the older man just wanting something back, or sexual favors from younger women. It's not always like that. So I wanted to show men in a different role as well.
Yeah, no, and you did. It definitely wasn't it's all this person's fault. It's all this person's fault. It is the system and many years of things being that way, and the poverty. Nobody really gets. I mean, yes, people really gets. I don't know what I really said that, but some people.
But it's true. If you haven't lived it,
if your whole life doesn't change because you had to buy a bottle of dishwashing detergent for $2 or whatever, you're not going to get it, people. Okay, you just aren't. Like money may not buy happiness, but it definitely buys security, which goes for a long way.
Yes, absolutely.
To that. So yes, this is now when you finish this, when you said you were carrying Danny and Matthew and that around your head for 10 years, what great company. You could get away with a lot. You were carrying them around your head for 10 years. And when you finish this, did you feel they were at rest then? They were at peace, that you could move on?
Yes and no. I've always been fascinated with Jamaican men by watching my father and his friends and how they interacted with each other. So the book was not, the book that you see today was really not the original manuscript. There were many more men with lives linked. Some of the stories were just not strong enough. And I hated to let those stories go. I really did. And a part of me wonders sometimes, should I have tried harder to make those stories better? But then I realized, no, because women deserved a place in this book as well. After all, I'm a woman, and I don't know, have I let them go? I suppose I have, because I'm not thinking about this book anymore as a thing that's unfinished. I'm so happy it's finished.
But you know what? I almost see it now. No, I'm not going to let you razz Peta-Gaye. Like a Steinbeck, his stories of
I love him.
The little town, and all the different characters in this little town and how they react. You can always go back and focus more on like the characters themselves and have these little stories of their interactions and stuff. Many, many years from now, after you finish the science fiction, when you're sitting there and you have some time. I'm not saying rush out and do it now, but I will be expecting it.
Yeah, I don't feel that I've put them to rest entirely. That's true. That's true. There's an unfinished feeling, especially for the men that were left behind, still stored somewhere on my computer.
Well, they're strong characters. They strongly affect each other. And I think in doing so, you know, they've lived there a long time. They've seen the negativity. They've also seen the comradeship. They've tried to help people. They've had to let things go. Like Matthew with the family of his employee.
Mhm.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see a Steinbeckish kind of thing in that area with those kind of guys. So not putting any pressure on you, but you know,
No pressure, no pressure.
sorry. I get carried away when I love characters. I can't let them go. Author Brian Granger says unused stories can always be reused in future books. Novels, especially need. You know what? I've got to get those progressive sub arcs. Yes. Brian agrees. Okay, so we'll revisit that in 20 years or something.
Yeah, yes. I'll need 20 years.
Don't worry about it. There are stories that but yeah, no, definitely. Okay. So, and you've also written another collection of short stories. I hear the drum. Is that sort of the same thing? Kind of the same understanding looked for?
It is. Well, I thought it was basically the same thing, but one of my readers, I heard through the grapevine, said this one was a lot darker than I Too Hear the Drums.
Oh.
So I don't know what that's about.
I'll go read it and tell you. Okay.
Maybe as we get older, we see more dimensions. They told someone it was a well-written book, but quite dark, and I didn't necessarily see that darkness.
You know what? No, I've had this before because someone said they said that I sometimes have a dark attitude, and I was like, where? Where? Like what? But sometimes I think people see reality as dark. But it's just honesty and reality. So that's just the possibility there. Could that be?
I think so. And a lot of times people read for lightness, like, when some people watch comedy movies, maybe people are expecting that from writing, but I'm definitely not a light writer.
Well, I think, and that was, I mean, people have their, not knocking anybody's opinions, but just being highly defensive of Peta-Gaye right now. but I think you made a point that is brought to someone's attention before opening the book. Like sometimes I read for entertainment, other times I read for because the author sends you the book. So I'm just joking, Peta-Gaye. I would have read this anyways. but yeah, I think you made that obvious on the back cover in the description. I don't think it would be easily confused as a book for entertainment purposes only. You're gonna think after reading this book. So okay, so we said you wrote children's literature. Do you have a couple minutes to go overtime because we missed that?
Sure, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, so you have 7 books out there of children's books, and I want to concentrate on one that Bushy Head, because the synopsis just pulled me right in with that. So can you share that with other people so they can be pulled in as well?
Absolutely. So Bushy Head came about because 3 little girls in my life had the same experience. My daughter, Meadow, my niece, Giselle, and my niece, Elia. They all had the same experience of going to school and being teased about their bushy hair, or their frizzy hair, whatever you want to call it, curls, and told that they couldn't be princesses on the playground because princesses didn't have curly hair, and I thought, I have to write a book. I have to write a book because we can't help the hair that grows out of our head. And why put poison? The chemical straightener. I know a lot of women do it, and that's fine, but they put this chemical straightener to take out all the curls. It's toxic, it's poisonous to the human body, and we're trying to be something that we're not. So I wanted all curly hair children to just embrace what they have without trying to make it different. And this has become so important to me. And I think I really imparted this to my daughter because she has embraced her curly hair. It's not that she'll never straighten it for a special occasion like women do, right? We like to do different things to our hair, but I never wanted her to feel that she was less than. And just as in the book where the character donates her hair, my daughter and my niece also grew out their hair, cut it short, and donated it to make human hair wigs for children that needed, curly hair.
That didn't have
So
any hair.
yes, yes. So I'm really proud of my nieces and my daughter. They were the inspiration behind this book. But I don't know what it is about curly hair. I was in an elevator once and I heard this little tiny voice behind me saying, "You have such nice curly hair and mine looks so bad." And I didn't hear it at first. And then I turned and she repeated it. And I turned around and there was this adorable little girl who was white with curly hair saying that her curls looked bad. And she was so beautiful. And I just can't understand why it's a thing that you have curly hair and you'd be teased by it. I thought we were really done with that kind of stuff, but apparently not.
Um,
So I wrote this book so that children could embrace their whatever
I
hair
don't
they have.
I don't know if we'll ever be over that. They always seem to find, like the I want to say Doctor Who, uh, Dr. Seuss said, now the elephants with the little ears are looking funny at the elephants with the big ears, right? After they got over the whole trunk fiasco, uh, they were now
It's
looking at
true.
ears. They will always look for something. But I want to tell all the curly headed children out there that I have always had this straight hair and I have been envious of you my entire life. so I feel it's really hard for me to understand why anyone would criticize. And so yeah, it's hair. Um
Well, my hope, Vicky. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was gonna talk about what, but um your hope is.
My hope is that we will get to a place in society. Society will never be perfect, but that we will get to a place where children who go into schools will feel empowered, embraced, and that the curriculum will be designed so that everyone can achieve their true potential. And through this, there would be really no need to make fun of or bully other children because everyone is committed to doing
Their
the thing
best.
that makes them most joyful,
Yes.
right? And in doing that, there's just no desire to make someone else feel less than.
Well, this is the thing. People say, it's always move, move, do this action, do this action. But if everybody just stopped for 10 minutes and had a cup of coffee and talked to a friend, and that would be 10 minutes of none of this going on, right? 10 minutes, it just stops because people
Right.
aren't having to prove anything or be anyone. And I think the answer is, I forgot to ask you earlier after writing that book, told you stories. Even
Mhm.
though, there are some very scary, disturbing things there, it leaves you with faith. It leads you to, embrace the fact that humans do have power over their lives. And I asked you if you felt that you were idealistic to have written such a thing, but I think you just answered that and it's good. We need more idealistic people in this world. I've kind of been slagged with that from time to time, but to believe that there is the possibility of goodness winning.
I do. I've never actually thought of myself as idealistic, but maybe I am because I think that um, if we just were all a bit more self-aware, I laugh with my girlfriends whenever there's a problem, and I say therapy, therapy, people, everybody just needs therapy, because I just think that the more self-aware you are, if everyone could get coaching, have someone to guide them through the hard times, we would all be such a better society. We would be able to acknowledge our flaws more openly, try to be more authentic, and herein lies the solutions to our lives, right? To be the
We
authentic
just
self.
have to, sometimes I think it's not about self-improvement, it's about self-acceptance.
That
We
is so
don't
important.
Yeah, we don't like ourselves. I mean, and to understand, I could hate all people for the rest of my life with curly hair. But no, I just know I wanted it and it didn't have it. So I'm jealous. Like, I can say that. We're so afraid to say certain things. Like, and I'm not really jealous anymore, but it's, I was for many years. Like, it cost me $80 to get hair like that. So I'm sure it would be more now. So it is, we can. I don't, yeah. I mean, sometimes I'm not sure if it's good to be idealistic. Keep it up. Keep writing for this. Now, I want to thank my husband for some thumbs up along the way in this technical journey I've had today. And also, he's asking, are the children books illustrated? And they are beautifully. Do you have some to show and tell us today with you, or?
No, I should have brought them with me. But no, they're all on Amazon. Um,
And you can
so
look
they're
through the
available there.
pictures. And the lovely illustrator is.
So I have different illustrators for all of them, but Bushy Head is Alia Holmes. She is Toronto based, and she did an amazing job with Bushy Head. Really, really proud of it. Um, so yes, I think that's an important book out there, not just for people with curly hair, but it really is showing kindness, compassion, diversity, accepting of differences.
I think that there's a lot more of that. I mean, when I look at indie writers, when I interview indie writers, I mean, we have a whole lot of how do I put it? I'm in that group now, so it doesn't matter. Older authors with older characters in this story still living full lives. Characters that have physical challenges, characters that
Mhm.
are not um what we would consider characters that look like real people on the street. Okay.
Yes,
Characters, all
so
of these
important.
things are starting to come out in the
Yes,
books as heroes.
yes.
And I also remember there was a time, Brian, and there was a time where Nero Wolf, the detective I used to watch on Mystery, he didn't leave his house. Okay, he had all his minions go out and get
Mm,
his clues and everything, and he just thought from our house. And people used to have quirks. They used to have individuality. They used to have things that, the fact that he could put all that together. Oh my gosh, I just thought there
mhm,
were like his little computer searches that he sent out into the world and brought
mhm,
the information back. The fact that he had this and was still seen as a productive, important part of society. Nobody said, Nero, you should go out, because he was busy doing other things, right? So it
mhm.
I do believe that there is reason to have hope for these things. Um,
Yes.
and with your book, to be honest and to look at that, and for people to see what other people live through and why they may want to improve their situation, or by coming to another country, that is their
Oh,
only salvation
absolutely.
sometimes. and
Absolutely.
and all people would be doing that, the same thing. So, yeah, I think idealism is good, and I think it's possible. I did it yesterday. I don't know why after everything I've been through today, but you have convinced me. See that? You're already doing great things. Um, so we talked about the fact that you're now working on a science fiction. And
Mhm.
will this be? Is this in the future?
It's both.
It's now
It's
and
both.
in the future.
Yes, it's going to go back and forth. Um, my goal right now is to attempt to just have fun. Because I think when, as writers or artists, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, it no longer becomes fun, then the writing becomes stagnant, and then I do my usual avoidance. I have
Yeah.
many good avoidance tactics that I've perfected over the years. So I need to look at this with an experimental eye and an eye of joy and gratitude. And that is not an easy thing for me to do.
Because you get that perfectionist.
Yes, yes. Yeah. So, that feeling of, well, suppose it doesn't get done. Is it a waste of time? So then your brain does things to trick you and okay, well, tomorrow. Well, I'm not going to start that right now because your brain has already gone ahead into the failure part or the part that maybe it won't happen. And then there's the avoidance. So my goal right now is to not force myself to get back to it, but to start that flurry of activity and character creation and do my research and to really enjoy the process.
No, I think it's important. I have that novel. That's sitting over there. And even actually it was a year ago now. I thought if I talk about this, if I talk about reconnecting with the novel on the show, I will get it done. I was wrong. But one of the it's not done. But one of the ideas I came up with was that you need to fall back in love with it. You know,
Absolutely.
there was something that it's like a relationship. There was something that pulled you to that story, that pulled you to
Mhm,
that book. And when you
mhm.
find that again, like you said, I think the passion makes all the
Mhm.
difference. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
there's a lot of hard work with that too.
it is a lot of hard work. And I remember hearing from an older writer that, you can't go back to a manuscript. I do not believe that because I went back to Told You again and again and again, and I would not give up on it. And I feel the same way about this new novel. Okay, it's been 2 years, but I know that we can go back to things. You might have to make a lot of changes and updates, but we can.
Well, I did hear Neil Gaiman say that there was one book. I think it was The Graveyard. I can't remember, but he started that book like many, many times and he just felt he wasn't ready to write it yet.
Mhm,
So then
mhm.
he finally went back to it and finished it and published it. So if he can say that,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
and I look forward to finding out if your future is dystopian
Hmm. Hmm.
or I can't think of dystopian or utopian. That's it. In the
Yeah.
future.
I
So
think
where
it will probably be a mix of both, just like any other time that we have lived in.
yes. Yeah, that is funny because in history there's always been good things and bad things going on.
Mhm.
No, when it comes to the
Yeah.
future, we gotta have a definite answer. It's gotta be good or it's gotta be bad. It is the thing. You can have the worst day and the best day all on the same day.
Mhm.
It's um
Mhm.
it's a funny world.
And
So
isn't it funny that something that could be dystopian to one group of people might be utopian for another?
yes, yes. Certain
Mhm.
elections may bring that to pass on either
Mhm.
side. So, because we're not political here on Fika with Vicky, where we know you can find your books on Amazon, we can
Mhm.
find them on Barnes and Nobles, and some people hope someday they will be on Kobo, but they're always hoping
I'll do my best.
and and it's the best place to keep up with you on Facebook, on your
Yes.
webpage.
Yes.
That's floating by there.
My Facebook, my Instagram. I also have a website where I blog, and I'm going to start being much more methodical about that as well. So it's Peta-Gaye-Nash.com. So please visit my website. You can take a look at past blogs. And I write about things like self-help and, just reflections on life
And how to make it better, I'm assuming.
and how to make it better.
Because that would be, a you thing to do.
Absolutely.
Well, I hope you come back and visit us again sometime and that everything runs smoothly. Because there were days.
Thank you so much. Well, yeah, today was a crazy day for me. Not finding the AirPods and being absolutely scattered.
And look, it went with the theme. So there you go.
Yes.
We'll be methodical when the world is. Okay.
Yeah. So true. There's that self-acceptance that we need to get to.
That's right. Well, see, this is why I have to just, if you accept, it's much easier. I could be a perfectionist and say, oh my goodness, the world has ended, start blaming people. Like nobody cares. Or just accept that this was the day when we still had a wonderful time.
We did. I've so enjoyed talking to you and interacting with your listeners. That was great.
Yes, they're a great group. They're very helpful during tech things where I'm like, someone please tell me what's happening out there. They always answer me. So you take care, and we're looking forward to that science fiction and more. And if you have a curly-haired little one out there that you care about, Bushy Head is probably for them.
Yes. Thank you, Vicky. It was a pleasure.
It definitely was. Take care, Peta.
Bye.
Okay, and for the rest of you, I will see you next week. Until then, may your coffee be hot and your stories sweet. Thanks for listening, everyone. And we're looking for the music button. There we go. Okay, we're getting la, 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 la. There we go. Thanks, everybody.
You are listening